Another casualty of ongoing state budget cuts is the environment. After making progress plugging abandoned oil wells, cleaning polluted streams, and expanding water monitoring, those programs and more are now either being shut down or sharply curtailed. Protecting the environment in Oklahoma has moved well down the list of priorities for state government.
Oklahoma's four main environmental state agencies have lost more than $15 million in general appropriations funding. The Oklahoma Corporation Commission down just over $1.1 million. Conservation Commission has lost over $1.4. The Department of Environmental Quality more than $3 million, and the Water Resources Board $9.4 million. Johnson Bridgewater is director of the Oklahoma chapter of the Sierra Club. He says the ongoing budget cuts will lead to more instances of illegal dumping of produced water from oil and gas operations.
They have found situations where the water was simply being dumped out along county roads, and I'm sure, unfortunately, that there are other situations like that that have occurred.
The $15 million in cuts does not include regular raids on the revolving funds of those agencies. At the Corporation Commission, the fund used to plug oil wells that have been abandoned for decades has been hard hit.
Our general appropriations were cut, but we were told to make it up out of the revolving fund.
Matt Skinner at the Corporation Commission says lawmakers worked with them for the 2017 fiscal year budget to try and lessen the blow to that fund, but it still means only the worst of the worst unplugged wells are getting attention.
We have to have enough money on hand to do emergency plugs, and that is a plug of a well that poses an imminent threat to human health and safety. Those are called Category 1 wells.
How many abandoned wells are really out there, no one knows for sure, but there are hundreds already on the waiting list to be sealed. In 2014, the legislature increased funding to the Water Resources Board as concerns mounted over the multi-year drought. That money has now disappeared, and along with it, new monitoring programs.
Visit monitoring sites less frequently. Maybe we have to drop some of those monitoring sites. Maybe we have to drop some of the parameters that we monitor in our lakes and streams and groundwater basins. Overall, it erodes our knowledge of our water resources in the state.
J.D. Strong is executive director of the Oklahoma Water Resources Board. One of those new monitoring programs enabled the agency for the first time to begin assessing the real amounts of water in aquifers and the quality of that water.
We can't adequately manage that resource if we don't measure it and understand how much we have to allocate in permits, what the quality of that resource is, whether it's in decline or is improving, which basically helps us prioritize the state's overall effort to protect that water resource.
The Rural Economic Action Plan revolving fund at the Water Board is money that helps keep drinking water and river water clean.
We will be able to provide fewer funds to those very small rural communities across the state that need it most to help keep up with the needs of their drinking water and sewer infrastructure.
At the Department of Environmental Quality, in addition to the $3 million lost in general appropriations, another $26 million has been taken out of their revolving funds.
And what that means for us primarily is that projects that we intended to work on either get canceled or seriously delayed.
Jimmy Givens is Deputy Director of the Department of Environmental Quality. The list of delayed or canceled projects include infrastructure repair at the Yugo Water Treatment Plant, cleanup of tire dumps in Catoosa and Pink. The dump in Pink is estimated to contain more than 15,000 tires.
It does present a fire risk, and if you have a fire, when you're talking about tires, you're talking about the potential for particles getting into the air. You're talking about the potential for certain kinds of chemicals getting into the air.
Tire dumps are also breeding grounds for some very serious diseases.
A breeding ground for mosquitoes. They tend to harbor rodents, and so there are health impacts associated with leaving tire dumps there.
DEQ will no longer be able to provide septic assistance grants to low-income homeowners. And there will be delays in cleanup of long-polluted sites leaving hazardous chemicals in the ground.
There are land protection projects, cleanup projects that are either delayed or I hesitate to say canceled, because at some point you're going to have to address those sorts of issues.
The agency's laboratory receives thousands of requests a year for water testing and other high-profile pollution cases.
Are we going to be able to replace equipment as it reaches the end of its useful life? And that, in turn, dictates whether we're able to meet the standards that we have to meet for accreditation.
Looming ahead for these and all other state agencies is a growing concern that state government will see another revenue failure, possibly in a matter of months, that will cut their budgets even deeper.
I think if there are any additional revenue failures down the road, we may well struggle with being able to absorb any more than we have already, and may be faced with the prospect of much more dire cutbacks and setbacks.
At DEQ, more cuts would mean a real threat to their ability to meet minimum operational requirements. That could open the door for the EPA to step in and take over for state government.